So, the rumors are true. You are brave, human, or merely foolish.
The ground cracked beneath my feet as I drove my fist into the armored chest of the alien soldier. The sound wasn't that of bone or flesh. It was metal screaming, bending, giving way under something it wasn't built to endure. My knuckles burned, but the soldier went flying backward, slamming into a jagged wall of crystal-like rock, its weapons skittering away in a shower of sparks. The air was thick with smoke and the faint hum of alien machinery vibrating through the atmosphere like a living thing. For a heartbeat, the battlefield went still. Every one of them, those towering creatures with exoskeletons that shimmered like liquid mercury, just froze. Not out of fear, but disbelief. They weren't used to seeing a human do that. The one I'd hit twitched on the ground, its chest plate caved in, hissing steam from a punctured power core. The others, 6 of them, surrounded me in perfect formation, disciplined inhuman precision. Each one held a plasma spear, tips glowing with white-hot energy. And yet, none of them lunged, none advanced. Something made them hesitate. I could hear my heart pounding fast but steady, a rhythm that drowned out everything else. The taste of iron filled my mouth, the residue of blood and ozone. My right arm trembled slightly from the blow. The skin scraped raw, but adrenaline masked the pain. I flexed my fingers, testing them, ready for whatever came next. Then I heard her, a sound that didn't come from any throat. It was like a whisper carved into the fabric of my thoughts, a soft, resonant tone that made every nerve in my body hum. The soldiers shifted, lowering their weapons ever so slightly, and turned their heads toward the throne at the far end of the chamber. She was there, the alien queen. Her throne rose from the center of a massive, pulsating structure that looked half organic, half machine. Tubes and veins of glowing green fluid ran through it, converging beneath her like roots feeding from the planet itself. She wasn't like the others. Her body was sleek and tall, skin that shimmered in colors that human eyes struggled to process. Her face, if it could be called that, was symmetrical and terrifyingly beautiful, with eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. And when those eyes locked onto me, the air seemed to thin, like the universe itself was holding its breath. I had read reports classified and incomplete. She was said to command entire worlds, her species spanning solar systems. Every army she led left behind only silence. No survivors, no ruins, just dust and memory. And yet here she was, standing in front of me and smiling. It wasn't a smile of malice. It was something else. Recognition, maybe, or curiosity. Why isn't she attacking? I muttered under my breath, barely audible. The soldiers reacted to my voice, hissing in unison, their movements fluid and reptilian. But still none made a move. One stepped forward, lowering its spear, waiting for her signal like a loyal animal before its master. I should have been terrified, but instead I felt an odd calm settling in. That wasn't natural. Maybe it was the after effect of the serum, Project Titan's infamous cocktail of nanites and genetic resequencers that had been injected into me 6 months ago. It was supposed to turn me into a weapon, faster, stronger, more resilient than any human alive. But there had been side effects. Memories blurred, time fractured. Sometimes I didn't know where the human ended and the experiment began. And now, staring into her eyes, I felt something deep inside me stirring. Something awake. The queen rose from her throne, her movements impossibly graceful, like liquid light flowing through the air. The soldiers parted silently, clearing a path for her. I took an involuntary step back. My instincts screamed at me to move, to run, to fight, but my body didn't obey. Her presence was magnetic. My breath hitched as she came closer, the scent of ozone and something floral, alien, filling the space between us. She stopped about 10 feet away, tilting her head as though studying a strange animal. Her mouth, or what passed for one, didn't move when she spoke. The voice came directly into my head, clear and echoing, each word layered with 1,000 harmonics. Human strength evolved. The word sent a chill down my spine. My fists clenched instinctively. She knew. How could she possibly know? The Titan project was classified beyond top secret. known only to a handful of military scientists and the soldiers they experimented on. I hadn't even been told the full extent of what they'd done to me. But this creature, this queen, spoke like she understood it intimately. Her gaze drifted to my right arm, the one that had just shattered her soldier's armor. The air shimmered faintly around it, an invisible distortion I hadn't noticed before. I glanced down and saw faint blue lines pulsing beneath my skin, like veins of light. They pulsed faster in her presence, reacting to something. The queen's expression deepened into something unreadable. Oh, fear, no! It was recognition. She extended one long, elegant finger toward me, and the soldiers tensed instantly, weapons rising again. My every muscle screamed to move, to attack, but I stood frozen, caught in the gravity of her gaze. Then she smiled again, slow, deliberate, and the world seemed to bend around her. The walls pulsed, the floor vibrated. I could feel the energy radiating from her like the heat of a sun. She was powerful beyond measure, and yet she didn't strike. She didn't order her soldiers to. She just watched me, as if waiting for me to understand something I couldn't yet see. My breathing quickened. "What do you want?" I asked aloud. Her answer wasn't in words this time. It came as images, flashes of battlefields across stars, titanic machines tearing through fleets, planets burning. I saw humans, our soldiers, standing beside her kind, not against them. Then a flash of something else, black, enormous, consuming light itself. Her presence older than anything I could imagine. The visions vanished as quickly as they came, leaving my mind raw and spinning. The queen stepped closer, until she was barely an arm's length away. My body locked up completely, every nerve screaming. Her voice entered my mind once more, this time colder, sharper, prototype. The word echoed inside me like an explosion. My knees nearly buckled. That was the code name for the first phase of Project Titan, the one they told me had failed. All subjects terminated. No survivors except me. I stumbled back, heart pounding. "How do you know that name?" Her expression didn't change, but her eyes flared, light spilling from them like fire through cracks in glass. For the first time, I sensed something underneath her calm, a flicker of emotion I hadn't expected. Fear. The alien soldiers hissed louder, their bodies tense, waiting. The queen raised a hand slightly, silencing them with a single gesture. The sound cut off instantly, replaced by an eerie stillness. "You are not theirs anymore," she whispered in my head, the words dripping with strange sorrow. "You belong to something greater." Before I could respond, the chamber lights dimmed. The floor beneath us began to hum, louder, deeper. She looked up sharply toward the ceiling, her expression shifting from curiosity to alarm. The soldiers turned their heads in unison, weapons flaring with energy. Somewhere above us, the sound of engines roared, human engines, reinforcements. But her gaze returned to me, and the corner of her mouth curved upward again, faintly, almost human. "This is only the beginning," she said, her voice echoing in the space between my thoughts. And as the first explosions tore through the walls, the last thing I saw before the smoke engulfed everything was her hand reaching toward me, inviting or commanding. I couldn't tell, then everything went white. The soldiers around me moved like synchronized machines, forming a circle so tight that I could feel the heat radiating from their weapons. Each one stood with its spear humming, the air crackling with electricity. I could see my reflection in their armor, smeared with blood, dirt, and the faint blue glow running through my veins. My breathing was heavy but controlled. Every part of me screamed that I was trapped, surrounded by enemies ready to strike. But none of them did. They just waited, silent, statuesque, eyes flickering with alien light. The queen was still watching me, her head tilted slightly, as if weighing something only she could see. My pulse drummed in my ears. The sound of my heart felt too loud in the silence. I didn't dare move. The wrong twitch might trigger their instincts. One wrong step, and I'd be skewered a dozen times over, but she didn't want me dead. "Not yet," her voice echoed again, a vibration that crawled through my skull instead of touching my ears. "Human strength. Evolved," she said, each word carrying a strange curiosity. like a scientist examining a rare specimen. I wanted to reply, to say something, but my throat was dry. My voice refused to cooperate. The Queen took another step forward, her movement fluid, her feet not quite touching the ground. She stopped just outside the circle of soldiers. They parted, lowering their weapons slightly as she approached me, as if her presence alone erased the need for their defense. "What do you know about me?" I managed to whisper. My voice cracked, the sound small compared to her power. Her gaze burned brighter. "Everything," she replied, not with sound but with sensation. Her words came wrapped in images and memories. Scenes I didn't remember giving her permission to see. I saw the lab, the cold metal walls, the bright surgical lights, the rows of cryo-chambers holding failed experiments. I saw myself screaming as the needles pierced my veins, injecting the Titan serum. I remembered the fire that followed, burning through my DNA, rewriting what I was. And over it all, the echo of my handler's voice. "You were never meant to survive." Then the vision faded. I gasped for air, stumbling backward, my head spinning. How did you see that?" Her expression didn't change. "Because you are not the first." The meaning hit me like a bullet. Not the first? My mind reeled. Titan was supposed to be humanity's first leap beyond its limits. A secret project to build the ultimate soldier. We thought we were alone in that endeavor, that we were the pioneers of evolution. But if she knew of it, if she could name it, if she'd seen others like me— "What do you mean?" I demanded. "What are you talking about?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, the colors within them shifting like oil on water. "Your kind has always believed creation was your gift. But you are echoes of something older." She gestured toward the soldier I'd defeated. The creature still twitched weakly on the floor, armor cracked open like a broken shell. Her gaze lingered on its exposed circuits, organic and synthetic, intertwined seamlessly. "Do you know what you are, human?" she asked. I clenched my fists. "I'm a soldier," she laughed. Not a sound of humor, but of disbelief, echoing like wind through hollow glass. "No, you are an echo of my world's past. The same code, rewritten by your kind, without understanding its origin. It took me a moment to process that. You're saying the Titan project was born from what your species found drifting in the void," she finished for me. "Wreckage. Fragments of a war that ended before your son was young. You harvested our dead technology and called it innovation." Her tone wasn't angry. It was something worse. Pity. My mind spun. Could it be true? I'd seen the fragments myself during the experiments. Alien metal fused with human biology. They told us it was recovered from an asteroid. "Ancient debris," they said. But if what she claimed was true, then we hadn't created the Titan program. We'd stolen it. The truth settled in my gut like ice. "You're lying," I said. But the words didn't even sound convincing to me. Her eyes flickered again, and suddenly the world around us dissolved into light. I blinked, but it wasn't darkness I saw. It was memory. Only this time it wasn't mine. I saw her world, a vast citadel of crystal spires and living metal. I saw her people, tall and radiant, beings of light and flesh, moving with grace beyond comprehension. Then came the war. Machines descended from the stars, endless and merciless. Cities turned to ash. Oceans boiled. And then I saw them, the prototypes, the fusion of her people's essence with machinery. Beings built to survive anything. Weapons made from the merging of two existences, and in those faces, glowing and terrible, I saw the same blue light that now pulsed in my veins. When the vision ended, I was on my knees, gasping. Sweat dripped down my face, my chest heaving as if I'd just run through fire. She stood above me, calm, her silhouette framed by the pulsing light of her ship. "You were made in our image," she said softly. "But imperfectly. You are unstable, unfinished." I raised my head, anger burning through my confusion. "You think that makes you better than me?" Her expression softened. "No, it makes you dangerous." The soldiers around us stirred uneasily. One took a step forward, its claws twitching near its weapon. She raised her hand slightly, and it froze mid-motion. "They do not understand what you are," she said. "They see an enemy. But I see possibility." I forced myself to stand, my legs trembling but steady. Possibility for what? She stepped closer, and for a moment her face was inches from mine. For survival, she whispered. For both our kinds. I didn't move. Her voice was hypnotic, her presence overwhelming. And yet something in the back of my mind screamed to resist, to fight the pull she had on me. You think I'll help you? I said through clenched teeth. You killed thousands of us. Her gaze didn't waver. And your kind killed millions of mine, she said. We are not so different, human. The floor beneath us vibrated again. A low rumble like thunder echoed through the ship. The Queen's expression shifted, her eyes narrowing in sudden alertness. The soldiers straightened instantly, forming ranks, weapons aimed toward the walls. What's happening? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she closed her eyes. For a moment, the lights dimmed across the chamber, as if the ship itself responded to her. Then her eyes snapped open, glowing like stars going nova. They've found you, she said quietly. Who? Your creators, my heart stopped. The humans. Her silence was answer enough. A shrill alarm blared through the hall. The soldiers hissed in agitation, repositioning around her. She looked at me once more, her voice colder now, but with a trace of something like resolve. Your war is not with us anymore, she said. It's with them. The floor trembled violently as something massive struck the ship from outside. I could hear the sound of tearing metal, the deep groan of collapsing corridors. I turned toward the noise, ready to fight, ready for anything. But when I looked back at her, she was already moving, her hand glowing with that same light as before. Before I could react, she placed her palm against my chest. Energy surged through me like lightning, paralyzing every muscle. Her voice filled my head one last time before everything went white. Fight for me, and survive the extinction. Then the world shattered into light and sound, and I was falling, into fire, into darkness, into something I could no longer understand. I lunged forward, desperate to break whatever spell she had over me. But the instant I moved, something invisible slammed me to the ground. It wasn't like being struck by a physical force. It was like the air itself hardened around my body, freezing me mid-motion. My ribs compressed, my breath caught in my throat, and a surge of blue electricity danced across my skin, reacting violently to her power. The Queen didn't move an inch. She simply stood there, her elongated hand outstretched toward me, her eyes glowing brighter with every passing second. The pressure increased until I thought my bones might snap. My vision blurred, black spots blooming at the edges of my sight. I struggled, gasping, but every ounce of strength I poured into resistance only made the invisible force tighter. The floor beneath me began to hum, patterns of alien symbols lighting up in response to her presence. The ship was alive, reacting to her thoughts. Then she stepped closer, her movements smooth and unhurried, her expression almost serene. She extended one of her spined hands and gently pressed her fingers against my forehead. The instant she touched me, everything went silent. No sound, no heartbeat, no air, and then the memories began. They didn't come as thoughts, but as floods of sensation, images, emotions, voices. I was back in the military facility, strapped to the operating table, cold restraints biting into my wrists. Scientists in hazmat suits circled me, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. I could hear their voices, flat, clinical, excited. Subject 09 showing signs of rapid adaptation, one said. Another muttered, heart rate stable. Begin the neural phase. I screamed as liquid fire poured into my veins. The Titan serum burned like molten metal coursing through me, shredding my DNA and rewriting it in real time. I saw flashes of my own body convulsing, muscles tearing and knitting themselves back together, stronger, denser. I saw lights flicker, alarms blaring as something went wrong, data spiking off the charts. Then darkness, but the Queen wasn't just showing me what I remembered. She was digging deeper, pulling out things I hadn't even known were buried there. I saw the faces of the other subjects, my brothers and sisters in arms. Some didn't survive the process. Some turned into something less than human, monsters that screamed until they were put down. And over it all, I heard the voice of the program's director, calm and cold. Only one will endure. Only one prototype will evolve. That one was me. The Queen's voice slid into my mind, soft but inescapable. Now you see it. You were never theirs to begin with. I wanted to fight her off, to push her out, but her touch anchored me, keeping me suspended in that storm of memory. Then just as suddenly everything shifted. I wasn't seeing my past anymore. I was seeing hers. A vast alien landscape unfolded before me. Skies the color of molten gold, stretched over a city of spiraling towers that pulsed with light. Her people moved like liquid, their forms changing slightly with every step, as if their bodies obeyed will more than biology. They lived in harmony with their machines. The boundary between life and technology didn't exist, but then the vision changed. Darkness spread across their world like an infection. Great ships blotted out their golden skies, and from them descended an army unlike anything I'd ever seen, cold, metallic, and silent. Machines of war that devoured light. I saw the Queen, younger, standing at the head of her armies. I saw her people die around her, entire cities disintegrating into ash. She showed me their desperate creation, the fusion of flesh and code, consciousness and machine. Beings built for survival, designed to fight back against extinction. And in those creations, I recognized something terrifyingly familiar. The same glow in their veins, the same blue light as mine. Her people hadn't died. They had changed. And humanity had unknowingly continued their legacy, scavenging fragments of their fallen civilization and calling it progress. The vision shattered. I fell backward, gasping as the connection broke. My body hit the cold metal floor, and I lay there trembling, the taste of blood in my mouth. The Queen looked down at me, her gaze filled not with cruelty, but with something like pity. "You understand now," she said in my head. "The cycle never ends. You are what we once were, a desperate creation trying to escape extinction." I dragged myself to my knees, fury bubbling beneath my exhaustion. "You're saying we're the same?" I spat. "That humanity's just another copy of your mistakes?" Her eyes shimmered. "Not a copy," she said softly. "An echo." Her words dug deep, twisting in my mind. Echo, the word carried weight, meaning. Was that all we were? A reflection of an ancient failure destined to repeat history? I clenched my fists, feeling the faint pulse of energy coursing through my arms. I wasn't ready to accept that. "You don't know us," I said. "We adapt. We fight back. We survive." The Queen tilted her head. "So did we." Her voice was cold, but beneath it I could sense something else. Fear. Not of me, but of what was coming. The chamber lights flickered, and a deep rumble shook the floor. The walls vibrated like the ship itself was groaning under pressure. Red lights flared overhead, alien glyphs flashing warnings I couldn't read. The Queen turned sharply toward the sound, her expression darkening. The soldiers around her hissed in unison, their weapons sparking to life. "What's happening?" I asked, forcing myself to my feet. Her gaze darted to the ceiling. "The others," she said. "The ones who hunt the remnants of the old war." I frowned. "Others? You mean more of your kind?" She shook her head slowly. "No, worse." Her soldiers began to move, forming defensive formations around her. The floor trembled again, harder this time, sending cracks across the glowing patterns beneath our feet. Somewhere in the distance, something exploded. The ship shuddered violently. The Queen turned back to me, her eyes burning brighter. "Listen carefully," she said. "What you saw in your creation was not an accident. Your makers stole power they did not understand, and now they have awoken what destroyed us." The sound of metal tearing echoed through the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. I could feel the heat of the fires spreading through the corridors. Whatever was attacking us was powerful, too powerful for even her ship to withstand easily. She stepped closer, her hand glowing faintly. "You have a choice, human," she said. "Return to them and die with them, or fight for something greater." I shook my head. "Fight for you. For the same species that wiped out mine." She didn't flinch. "Fight for survival," she corrected. "There will be no humans or aliens left when the void arrives. Only extinction." Before I could respond, the floor erupted. A massive claw of molten metal tore through it, snapping one of her soldiers in half. Screams, high, mechanical, filled the air. The creature that emerged was something out of a nightmare. Neither machine nor life, a shadow with form and purpose only to consume. Its face, or what passed for one, was a swirling void of darkness, devouring light itself. The Queen didn't hesitate. She raised both hands, energy crackling between them, and unleashed a blast that disintegrated the creature in an instant. But there were more, thousands of them, closing in like a swarm. She looked back at me, her expression fierce. "You wanted to know what you are," she said. "Now you'll find out." Before I could speak, she reached out and grabbed my arm. I felt her power surge through me, overwhelming, suffocating. My veins burned as blue and green light intertwined beneath my skin. Then, without warning, the world around us collapsed into a whirl of energy. The last thing I heard before the light consumed everything was her voice, calm, commanding, and final. "Do not fear what you will become." And then there was nothing but light and silence. The soldiers screamed, their armor reflecting the flickering red alarms that bathed the chamber in chaos. The air was thick with smoke and static, and beyond the fractured glass dome above us, the void of space trembled. I followed their gaze upward and froze. Something vast was approaching. Not ships, not fleets, but shadows. Living shadows. Shapes that moved with impossible speed, blotting out the starlight as they descended like a storm of black fire. The Queen hissed in a language that sounded like knives scraping on stone. Her soldiers scrambled into formation, their plasma spears glowing with lethal light. But even they looked uncertain, almost afraid. I could feel it too. The pressure in the air, the way my bones seemed to hum in resonance with whatever was coming. It wasn't just an invasion. It was something older, something that didn't belong in any universe that made sense. "They found us too soon," the Queen muttered, her voice trembling with an emotion I hadn't heard from her before. Fear. Her eyes flared as she turned to me, scanning my body, her gaze lingering on the glow pulsing in my veins. "They followed you?" she said. I shook my head, stumbling backward. "Me? I didn't bring anything here." "You are a beacon," she hissed. "You carry their mark, the code that calls them." "What code?" I demanded, but before she could answer, the ship shook violently. A deafening boom echoed through the hull as something tore through the upper levels. I heard screams, inhuman and metallic. The ceiling split open, and a beam of blinding darkness, if such a thing could exist, cut through the air like liquid shadow. It struck one of her soldiers, and in an instant the creature was gone. Not destroyed, erased. The Queen snarled, extending both arms as an energy field flared around us, a shimmering dome of green light. The shadow beam struck it, scattering into rippling waves that crawled across the barrier. I felt the heat of it even from where I stood. My vision blurred. My heartbeat roared in my ears. "What the hell are they?" I yelled. She looked at me, her expression grim. "The end!" Her words sent a chill through me. "The end." That was all she said, and somehow I believed her. Whatever these things were, they weren't an army or an enemy in the conventional sense. They were entropy given form, a hunger that had learned how to move, how to think, how to find light and devour it. "Your creators woke them," she said, stepping closer to the barrier as another explosion rocked the ship. "When they rebuilt you with our lost code, they reactivated the ancient frequencies that summon the void swarm. It is drawn to its own reflection." I stared at her, realization clawing at my chest. "You're saying I called them here?" "Yes," she whispered, "but you are also the only one who can stop them." Her soldiers howled as a section of the chamber collapsed. The Queen turned to them and barked an order. They obeyed instantly, their forms blurring into streaks of light as they rushed to reinforce the walls. I could barely hear myself think over the chaos. Smoke filled my lungs, and every muscle screamed in protest. My instincts told me to run, to escape this nightmare. But I couldn't. Something inside me pulsed in sync with the energy of the invaders, an invisible thread connecting us. "What do you mean I can stop them?" I asked, coughing through the haze. "I can't even control what's happening to me." The queen turned back to me, her eyes fierce and glowing like twin stars about to implode. "Because you are no longer human," she said. "You are a bridge between our kind and theirs. Your body carries the DNA of both creators and destroyers." Her hand reached out, trembling. "You can channel the energy they feed on, turn it against them. But only if you surrender your humanity." I felt my stomach twist. "You want me to give up being human?" "If you do not," she said, "everything you know will die." The ship jolted again, and through the broken dome, I saw one of the shadows breach the barrier. It was massive, larger than the ship itself. Its surface was liquid darkness, shifting and reforming with every second. Eyes, hundreds of them, blinked open across its body, each one reflecting a different version of me. In one reflection, I was human. In another, machine. In the last, something monstrous. The queen turned toward the creature, her hands rising. Beams of energy shot from her palms, striking the entity with enough force to shake the stars. It screamed, a sound that seemed to tear through reality itself, but it didn't fall. Instead, it reached out with a tendril of black mist, wrapping around one of her soldiers and dragging it into the void. The soldier didn't even have time to cry out before it vanished completely. "Go!" the queen shouted. "Into the core chamber." I didn't argue. I ran through the smoke and debris, down a corridor lined with pulsing green lights. The ground trembled beneath me, the sound of the battle fading behind, as I sprinted through twisting halls that felt more alive than mechanical. The walls throbbed like veins. The air crackled with strange energy. I didn't know where I was going, only that she wanted me there. Then suddenly, the queen appeared ahead of me, teleporting, or maybe moving faster than I could comprehend. She blocked my path, her breathing ragged. Her once perfect armor was cracked, black fluid dripping down her side. "They're breaching the reactor," she said, her voice softer now, almost human. "If they consume it, this world and yours will collapse into the void. What do you want me to do?" She stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched my chest. The moment her skin met mine, pain exploded through my body. My veins lit up, the blue glow turning into blinding white. I screamed, clutching at her arm, but she held me firm. "You are their reflection," she said. "But you can also be their mirror." "What does that mean?" I gasped. "It means you can show them themselves. You can make them remember what they once were." I started, but she cut me off, her voice sharp. "Stop thinking like a soldier. Feel it, let it happen." Her tendrils wrapped around my arms, merging into my skin. I could feel her energy pouring into me, fusing with mine. The pain was unbearable. My vision blurred, and my body felt as though it was unraveling and rebuilding itself all at once. The ship began to collapse around us. The ceiling tore open, revealing the monstrous swarm above. They were everywhere now, hundreds, thousands, devouring the stars, the light, everything. I could feel their hunger inside me, clawing at my mind. The queen leaned in close, her voice barely a whisper. "You are not their weapon anymore. You are mine." Before I could react, she pressed her forehead to mine. The world erupted in a blinding surge of light. My body disintegrated, not dying but transforming. I could feel every molecule of my being rewriting itself, fusing with her essence, with the alien code inside me, with the power of the void itself. Then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in silence. No ship, no queen, no soldiers, just endless stars stretching in every direction. My reflection floated before me, a shimmering figure of light and shadow, half human, half something else. A whisper echoed in the void, her voice carried on invisible winds. "You are what comes next." I looked down at my hands, pulsing with energy that could create or destroy with a thought. I felt the pull of the swarm in the distance, hungry, endless, but now they hesitated. They felt me too, and for the first time, they stopped. When I spoke, my voice wasn't just mine. It was hers and something older still. "This ends now." The stars around me flickered, then ignited into blinding light as I raised my hands and unleashed everything. For a single, infinite moment, I became the weapon they feared, the evolution they had created, and the savior neither humans nor aliens deserved. When the light faded, I was no longer on Earth. The void was gone. The swarm was silent, and I realized with a strange, calm certainty I wasn't human anymore. I was something beyond both creation and extinction. I was the bridge, and the beginning